Thank you, sir. I prepared 5 short points which I was going to read out in 30 seconds each about some issues facing our cities. But I've reacted to a comment made, and I apologize in advance if it is provocative. I've recently come to Islamabad. I must introduce myself. I'm from Lahore. About a year and a half ago I sold my car. I now move about by cycle and by public transport. And the 2 odd weeks I've spent in Islamabad have been very, very difficult indeed. Sir, Islamabad is not the best city in Pakistan. The slums that we see in Islamabad are here because of a failure in urban planning, of a misallocation of resources, and a misalignment of priorities. Islamabad has no water. I'm staying in G10. There's scarcely any water there. I'm told in G13 there's a crime problem. It has no public transport. I can't get a taxi to come to this hotel. It's socially segregated. It's anti-poor. How can anyone say Islamabad is the best city in Pakistan? But unless you have a car. When was the last time a city's economy was, and Deputy Chairman will agree perhaps, when was the last time a city's economy was spurned by amendments in law? City economies are spurned, sir, by stimulating people, by encouraging entrepreneurship, by loosening the capital in your cities and providing opportunities to people and not socially segregating them. The idea of developing sort of entertainment capital or entertainment center in Islamabad and throwing 1,000 canals at it, I can say here, sir, will be a non-starter. And I'll refer you to Soho in London or Soho in New York, which operate out of a few city blocks, but have given the entire world a culture since World War II. Where is the thousands of acres of sprawl in Islamabad? Where is it given Pakistan culture? Where is the vibrancy? You can't walk anywhere here. When was the last writer produced out of Islamabad? When was the last intellectual produced out of Islamabad? Where was the last writer produced out of Islamabad? None. The sprawl in this city kills the entrepreneur spirit. It kills the creativity. And sir, I apologize, but sometimes unelected officials have to hear this. Islamabad is the most subsidized and elitist city in Pakistan and is fast running out of the resources such as water that will keep it alive. We have to realign our priorities, and I'm thankful for this conference to give me the opportunity to say these few words and congratulate again the team and the Deputy Chairman for organizing such a successful conference and wish the best for this new growth strategy. Thank you.
Well, we live in an extraordinary time. If we look back historically, Pakistan was one of the few countries going back, if you look back 40, 50 years ago, we've had extraordinary experience in building a new city like Islamabad. We were the great innovators of looking at public housing projects in Karachi, projects in Lahore, the Kot Lakhpat project, the Metroville projects in Lahore. So we looked at the concepts of public housing. From there we moved on, and we've learnt a lot regarding Kachi Abadis, the slums, how to improve them, what are the options. And many parts of the world, many groups of people came from other parts of the world and learnt from our experience. Somehow in the last few years, we've lost track of our institutional history, of where we learnt, and we're making the same sort of mistakes now. And that's been an unfortunate trend that has taken place in many of our urban areas. In terms of the growth framework, we need to concentrate on the poverty or the urban poor of our country. And in terms of policy, there has not been much been done. And like this morning, I was raising issues pertaining to, for example, urban housing, and there is very limited work which has been done for housing for the urban poor. Very limited work in terms of what needs to be done for the transportation of the urban poor. The concept of a bicycle. We don't have any bicycle routes. There are millions and millions of people in this country who ride bicycle, but there is no plan for a bicycle lane. There is no, and if you have, and there's no concept of pedestrians, people who actually walk on foot. Unfortunately, in our traffic management, the pedestrian is on the lowest end of the ladder. So these are some of the issues, amongst many others, the problems regarding pollution, environment, land use planning, intensity of land use, urban sprawl, looking at water supply systems, sewage networks, whole issues of land banking, municipal services, how you charge for them. Unfortunately, our institutions are not structured, the urban management institutions are not structured to even talk about these issues. And that's and that one of the reasons why we have so many problems today is because the institutions which run and manage and operate our cities are very weak, and the top management, so to speak, they shuttle between location to location, city to city, and they really don't have the background of how to deal with urban issues. So
it is also because the best and the brightest do not want to go into urban planning. It is such a political belief.
Well, there are a lot of people who want to do urban planning and want to do, but the top echelon of our institutional framework, where urban managers or the bosses of the development authority, the people who actually dictate policy, provide policy, short term, intermediate term, long term, they are only there for a very short time. So you will find an individual who will come and run a development authority for perhaps 2 years, and his previous experience is completely unrelated to where he is today. And then they will be there for a couple of years and get onto the learning curve at the cost of the taxpayer or the individual citizen of that city, and then move on somewhere else. So you keep on having these groups of people who come in and try to run cities on which they really have no idea, and then they move on to somewhere else. So we need to make a dramatic change in the systems where where we appoint these people, what their background should be, and there needs to be some form of continuity. If somebody comes into the city, they need to understand the dynamics on how the city growth is taking place, and then at least provide some rudimentary form of continuity in managing the cities.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure.
You? Assalamualaikum, Suhail sir. Thank you for being here.
Walaikum Assalam. Pleasure to be here.
I would like to begin by getting your initial comments on the growth strategy.
So I don't know if you really want to. I feel in the whole strategy is it's completely, there's a lack of understanding of the urban poor. It's the whole focus over in the last 20-30 years has been that the poor do not exist. I'm going to give you small examples. Out of the hall, we have over 2.5 million bicycles. There's not a single bicycle lane. In terms of pedestrian ways, we have 7 billion people. There's hardly any pedestrian walks. So if you're a pedestrian, you're supposed to not exist. You're not supposed to be there. You're like an ant. And a bicycle is again not supposed to not be existent. It's not supposed to be moved back and forth. Whereas vehicles, we have roads. Roads are there. We're widening all our roads, but we do not focus on what's happening with the urban poor, the guy who has got to go from place A to place B. Same thing in Islamabad. Same thing in the 9 cities that I've worked in. Number 2, and that is pertaining to housing the urban poor. In the last 15 to 17 years, there has not been a single focused urban housing project focusing on the urban poor, except perhaps 1 or 2 very small, minor things that they've been doing. So the urban poor is not supposed to exist. He's not supposed to live. So what happens is that they go on to marginalized lands, and they occupy, and we talk about encroachments, which is outrageous. Somebody talks about, that there is an encroachment taking place. Where do you expect that person to go? I mean, is he supposed to go underground? There is no such thing as a policy for the urban poor. So obviously,
obviously, these people are going to encroach on government land. They're going to encroach on land which are marginalized. They have to live. We need to provide shelter. It's been an absolute failure in terms of understanding the problems of the urban poor, unless and until we begin to even realize this. And the strategy framework has to focus on this. We are going to have problems between the haves and the have-nots. Those people who live in fancy houses, wide streets, have water, electricity, as compared to their neighbors who have no electricity, no housing, no place, and they live in polluted environments, we're going to have a social problem, and that social problem is coming. I've been talking about it for the last 15, 20 years at various forums. And there's a complete lack of understanding that the people who are living under poverty, and there is a discrimination between the utilization of their resources and the available things that they have for themselves in terms of public utilities, municipal services. They're going to rise up one day and they're going to say, well, my neighbor who lives in a fancy house and utilizes the spaces that they have, and they'll pick up arms, they'll do whatever they need to. It's an outrageous situation. In terms of urban development, I mean, there was an example on Islamabad. Again, it's a case of absolute failure, where we have an urban sprawl, one of the most administratively controlled development authorities in the country. Amongst the 35 that we had some time ago, Islamabad is the case where we can start beginning to realize where failures have begun. Second one is Lahore. You know, these are the large cities, again, one of the most centralizedly controlled administrative areas where we have had the chief minister out there who's been trying to ensure, or various chief ministers in the last 25, 30 years, again, an absolute failure. You look at other cities like Islamabad, you look at Multan. Multan was run by a development authority which, I mean, the guy was a PR guy in one of the small companies. He made it to chairman of the development authority. And we were taking up these guys from all over the countryside and plotting them on our heads. It's like this hotel. Okay, I mean, we're all sitting here having a great time, enjoying the facility. And if I tell you that this hotel is going to be run tomorrow by one of the waiters, and let's see what happens to the hotel. Now, visualize a city like that. We're having a city run by incompetent people. Why are they there? You know, the reason why they're there is because the system generates people like that to come and run us. As a taxpayer, you know, we need to complain. Okay? Here we are, we're being run by incompetent people, and we are giving them the powers to tell us what to do. And then we come back here at these forums, and we talk about, you know, what happened. What happened is that we're having people who have no understanding of what the real issues are, and they're trying to manage our city's affairs. Thank you.